News PH. Now, today is September 9, 2020. It's Wednesday. Please be mindful of, ewan ko, meron pa bang color coding, Gabriel? Hindi ko na alam dahil pabago-bago lagi. In any case, be mindful out there because apparently even under GCQ, traffic still gets really bad, and a number of friends have mentioned it on Facebook. So just be mindful of the traffic, and a lot of these motorcycle guys who are delivery people who are just lane splitting, ikot-ikot, and yung iba nga pumipirmi pa dun sa lane divider. Anyway, today is going to be an interesting day because we intend to tackle the developing story. Marami pong developing story, pero isang medyo nag-umpisa kahapon ay yung pong pagsasara ng mga sementeryo sa Metro Manila. Okay? Right now, okay, may nag-text, number coding to remain lifted until community quarantine exists. MMDA. Okay, so walang number coding. Okay, kanya pala matraffic. In any case, a developing story here in Metro Manila, at least, is the direction of local governments not to open cemeteries. Kahapon po, hindi, sabi nung Manila lang, hindi. Yun ang nasa balita. Pinag-uusapan na yun, kanya nga developing story. Pinag-uusapan na yung wag nang buksan yung mga simenteryo kasi baka magka-problema dito sa COVID-19. Pinangunahan po ito ng Manila. The City of Manila has made it official. Isko Moreno made a proclamation yesterday, both on paper and voice, where he said that for the safety of his constituents, sarado ang mga sementeryo sa Metro Manila, sa City of Manila. Ang City of Manila kasi has one of the biggest cemeteries in Metro Manila. And it seems that that is now under consideration by other mayors and probably eventually by the IATF, because how on earth are you going to regulate people in the cemetery? Kadalasan po yan sa sementeryo, lalo na pagundas, wala. Talagang walang social distancing. Dikit-dikit nga ang tao dahil yung mga nicho, okay, the tombs itself, are so close to each other that you cannot avoid bumping into people. So yun po malamang at malamang hindi na papayagan for this year. Kasi alam niyo naman po, some of you may really want to go on November 1 to the cemetery, but consider this. You may end up also ending up in the cemetery if this is not regulated or for the meantime not stopped. But we will discuss this with Father Jerome Secillano, Secretary General of the CBCP Public Affairs Committee. Pag-uusapan natin yan kasi medyo marami na ring issue concerning that concerns the Catholic Church and other churches as well, like yung bilang ng mga taong pwedeng mag-attend ng misa or ng church services or praise and worship. Pagkatapos yung confessionals, sa mga Catholic churches, standard dyan, yung mga nangungumpisal. I'd like to believe na habang nagko-COVID, actually mas maraming nabawasan ng kasalanan. Kasi marami dyan hindi makaalis ng bahay. In any case, we will discuss that, the visiting in the cemetery, confessionals, church gatherings, etc. At kamusta naman yung finances nila ngayong walang nagbibigay muna ng offerings sa mga simbahan. We will also speak to Dr. Valerie Ulep, Research Fellow of the Philippine Institute for Developmental Studies or PIDS. Kasi may study raw pong lumabas na yung gobyerno, yung Pilipinas, medyo hindi up to speed in terms of its transition to electronic governance and government services. Importante po ito malaman natin ano ba yung PIDS, ano ba itong nangyayari sa electronic governance kasi marami pong mga ahensya ngayon, sinabihan na ni Presidente na you go online kasi hindi na pwede yung mga pila-pila, yung mga habang mga delays, etc. And later in the program, we will also be speaking with our news correspondent, Shaila Francisco. Naku, isa pang developing story, developing headache, developing controversy. Yung bagang white sand kuno dyan sa Manila Bay. Medyo sumasakit na ulo ng mga kinaukulan kasi po there is now a growing controversy there in terms of health, in terms of environmental impact, in terms of graft and corruption, and in terms of who's responsible and who will be held accountable. We'll find out all of that from our news correspondent Shaila Francisco. In the meantime, let's go to the stories on the front page of the Philippine Star. There is no need for deportation proceedings, fresh fingerprints, and mugshots as the government has begun the process of releasing homicide convict U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton, who has recently received an absolute pardon from President Duterte. Bureau of Corrections spokesperson Gabriel Chaklag said in an interview that while they will follow the normal process for pardoned prisoners, they will have to consider implications and may have to expedite the process as Pemberton is covered by other agreements like the Visiting Forces Agreement or VFA. As of yesterday, Pemberton was still in detention at Camp Aguinaldo. Hay nako, hindi ko maintindihan. Yan po ang ika nga, speedy bagal. Nasabi ko kanina, we are going to discuss with the PIDS representative yung transition of government to e-governance or e-government. Ito, release laang. Sos, Ginoo, ilang araw nang pinag-uusapan yan. Nag-aaway na yung mga partidong involved dyan, nagkakabintangan na, nagkakaintrigahan na, pero ayan, pinoprocess pa. Makes you wonder, I mean, how far is Malacanang from Camp Aguinaldo to send a letter of instruction to pardon the guy, and how long does it take to process one guy to get him out of jail? I mean, look, I'm not supporting Pemberton. I'm commenting on the process itself. That 48 hours has passed and the guy is still there and they're still talking about, oh, we're still waiting for this, we're still waiting for that. Oh, we don't know, I don't know. That's the Philippines for you right now. Okay, the multi-agency task force formed to investigate the alleged irregularities at PhilHealth is expected to submit its recommendations to President Duterte next week. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, who leads the task force, said they will now start consolidating all the information they have gathered from the investigation. The Senate has earlier submitted its recommendations after conducting its own probe into the matter. Yan po ang isa pang problema sa gobyerno. And I'm not talking about the Duterte administration alone. It is our government involving the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. Tingnan ninyo, yung legislative, in aid of legislation naman daw, nag-iimbestiga. Pero if you listen to all of their press release, comments, media comments, statements, etc., they've already come to the conclusion, guilty as charged. Pagkatapos, biglang ito naman yung DOJ, teka, there is a process, procedure, this is done, investigated properly, and to be fair, the DOJ, hindi sila nagpuputak, hindi sila nagpa-publicity stand. Yun yung sistema ng hustisya. Mag-imbestiga ka, pag-aralan mo, magrekomendasyon ka, mag-file ka ng charges at hayaan mo yung huwis magdesisyon. Hindi yung pupunta ka sa harap ng camera, guilty. Eh, yan ang problema dito sa Pilipinas. Kanya lalong lumalabas na para bagang mahina yung ating pamahalaan kasi nagkakaunahan, nag-uunahan. Okay. Anyway, eto po. Yan ang sinasabi ko eh. All Manila cemeteries will be closed during the Undas holidays this year. This measure is aligned to curbing the COVID-19 spread as Mayor Isko Moreno hopes the decision will prevent crowds from flocking into the cemeteries. Moreno says he announced it early so families can visit the remains of their loved ones before Undas. We will speak with Father Jerome Secillano of CBCP on the matter. Okay, and the House Legislative Franchise Committee has opened the frequencies left by ABSCBN to other applicants. Vice Chairman of the committee, Jonathan C. Alvarado, and Mike Defensor said they will not reserve the frequencies until ABS-CBN applies for the franchise in 2020. The franchise of the media giant covers 5 AM and 18 FM radio stations and 42 analog and 10 digital TV stations nationwide. Natural naman po yun. Kung hindi naman talaga dapat hintayin, wala tayong magagawa. And ito lang po, no, parang it will be very interesting to find out sino ang unang pipila para dun sa mga franchise na yon. Number one, alam niyo po kung bakit. Kasi malapit na naman ang eleksyon. Mas mura ho yatang magtayo ng TV at saka radyo kaysa sa mga kampanya. Kasi daang milyon o bilyon na rin ang gagastusin mo para magtayo para tumakbo ng congressman o senador. So, may mga kilala akong naging senador na sinabihan ako noon, Cito, kung may bala kang tumakbo ng senador, umupo ka na lang sa lahat ng TV station at radio station at mag-internet ka. Mas mura pa kaysa sa tatakbo ka at mangangampanya kang the way it's done traditionally. Kasi, naku, ang laking babayaran mo. Taka kayo, no? Public servant, gagastos kayo ng hundreds of millions o billion for a national position. Saan mo kukunin yung pambayad mo doon o pambalik pera? In any case, so sino yung pipila para dyan sa franchise na yan? Very interesting. Pangalawa po, no? Sino nag-i-interest sa mga franchise na yan? Kasi may mga nasagap tayong chismis noon na may mga religious group, may mga business group na nagnanasa makuha yan. And paalala ko lang po dun sa inyo, no? Kasi itong tanda kong to, inabutan ko na rin yung mga pagpapalit ba ng mga istasyon, mga channel. Kasi nung unang panahon, merong Channel 2, Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 13, Channel 5, etc. Pagkatapos nagkabala-balasa yan nung nag-martial law, etc. So, medyo, alam nyo, yung designation, pwede nyo makuha yan. Pero ngayon, sa internet, sa Facebook laang, naku, talo-talo na. Mas dumadami pa nga po ang mga viewership ng mga programang katulad natin thanks to social media. And syempre, maraming salamat po sa inyong mga nanonood at nagsusubaybay at pinopromote din yung programa ng Signal at syempre ng TV5. In any case, yun lang, no? Kasi medyo parang baka may magsabi, nagmamadali, ano? Hindi makapaghintay. Hayaan nyo na. Bantayan nyo na lang sa susunod na eleksyon. Sino ang biglang meron ng bagong radio station? Walang pinagkaiba yan nung nakaraang eleksyon. After the last election, may mga kilala. Kilala ko, hindi ko naman pagtatanggi yun. Kahit na sweetik, sabihin natin, biglang may dyaryo. Biglang meron ng kung ano-ano. Ay, nako. Anyway, let's go to our first guest for today. He is a research fellow at the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS. He is also a visiting research fellow at the Nikkei Japan Center for Economic Research. Ang pangalan po niya, ang palayaw niya ay Dr. Val Ulep. Dr. Val, nandiyan po ba kayo?
Oo. Good
Okay,
morning. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, good morning Dr. Val. Alam mo, ako palabiro akong tao and kuminsan curious naman ako, no? Medyo tanong ko lang, wag mong mamasamain. Tama ba yung sulat nitong mga team members ko? Sabi Dr. Valerie Ulep. Sabi ko, lalaki re, bakit naging Valerie ang pangalan nito?
Tama po kayo, sir. Di ko rin sure kung bakit kailangan kong tanongin sa parents ko kung bakit naging Valerie. Pero just call me Val, sir.
Okay, hindi. Alam mo, wag mo ikahiya yun, Bal, ano? Kasi biglang naalala ko yung kanta ba, ewan ko kung si Kenny Rogers ba yun o kalimutan ko na isa pang country singer, yung The Boy Named Sue. Pinangalanan yung anak ng pangalang babae. Tapos sa buong buhay niya, basag ulo yung buhay niya. Tapos hanggang sa nakilala niya yung tatay niya at sabi ng tatay niya, kanya kita pinangalan ng Sue. Alam ko na ganyan, magiging matigas ka, matapang ka kasi miyat-miya suntukan. Anyway, Dr. Val, favor naman, paki-explain mo muna sa amin, ano ba itong PIDS na ito? Kasi ang pagkaintindi ko sa PIDS, para kayo yung mga nagmo-monitor ng mga transactions, programs sa gobyerno. Nung nakita ko, Institute for Development Studies, parang iba yata o mali yata yung pagkaintindi ko sa PIDS.
So, Sir, PIDS or the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, ito po yung national government think tank po natin. So it's an attached agency po ng National Economic Development Authority or NEDA. So the main function po of PIDS is to develop relevant research, socio-economic research for policy making. So for example, kung may gustong isa batas na batas, for example, kami yung nagbibigay ng mga pag-aaral kung anong mangyayari, ano yung possible implications ng isang possible legislation. So basically, we conduct research, relevant research for the Philippines.
Okay. Ngayon, ikaw ay fellow rin sa Nikkei Japan Center for Economic Research. Ano ba ang background mo, Dr. Ulep? Kasi yung organisasyon mo nauna, hindi yung expertise mo eh.
So just to be clear, so hindi po ako medical doctor. Ako po ay may PhD po sa health economics. So ako po ay isang ekonomista. Ang line of research ko po ay health. So pinag-aaralan ko po ang issues on PhilHealth, issues on nutrition using an economic lens.
Okay, ngayon, merong lumabas daw na balita na yung e-government shift ng Pilipinas is not fast enough, or to be blunt about it, is actually slow. What exactly does the study reveal regarding the government's ability to go into e-government program?
So e-government, sir, is medyo malaki, but I think I want to focus more on e-health, right? So I want to focus more on e-health kasi yun naman po yung heart and soul ng paper at kung bakit andito po tayo ngayon because of the pandemic.
Okay.
Before I discuss yung mga issues and roadblocks, let me quickly lay the ground muna. So ano ibig pong sabihin ng e-health or e-government? In particular po sa e-health. So e-health po pertains to two systems. So may front-end system. Ito po yung mga issues on telemedicine systems. Second is the back-end system. So under po ng back-end system, there are two buckets. So ito po these are the systems that support regulatory and financing function of the government. Ito po yung mga digital submission of data from hospitals, clinics, laboratories to DOH and PhilHealth. Yung second bucket po is a system that supports service delivery. So ito po yung mga different types of health facilities like hospitals, clinics, laboratories are interconnected into an ecosystem. So before I discuss the issues and roadblocks, ano po yung ideal setup? I think importanteng maintindihan po natin, ano po yung ideal na setup? In front-end or telemedicine system, dapat po lahat ng Pilipino ay may access sa primary care provider or physician, either physically or remotely through mobile phones or other platforms or modality. At ano yung na-highlight dito sa pandemic, kung ngayong pandemic, is that a lot of Filipinos do not have access or relationship to primary care physician. So for example, may sipon ako or may lagnat ako, di ko alam yung gagawin ko. So unlike in many other countries na may mature health system, may kultura sila na primary care provider. So alam ko kung sino yung kukontakin ko. But yun yung na-highlight ngayong pandemic na wala tayong ganong kultura. So, so with regards to the back-end system, what is the ideal setup? So lahat ng facilities, public man or private, should submit digital data to DOH and PhilHealth on a timely and standardized manner. And all types of health facilities, clinics, laboratories are interconnected. So, review of sharing of health information among providers are facilitated. So, may eliminate po yung mga duplication of tests, mapabilis po yung referral system from the rural health unit to hospitals. Pero ito yung mga naging issue na nakita natin ngayong pandemic. So, ano yung mga roadblocks? Bakit natin hindi na-achieve ito? So I would classify it into three. So number one is infrastructure. So you would see that there's an issue of under infrastructure, there's an issue of internet connectivity. A lot of areas in the Philippines, based sa pag-aaral, na maraming walang connection, especially in Mindanao and Visayas areas. Second is that hardware issues. A lot of RHUs, if you do surveys, wala silang computer, wala silang cameras that can be used for telemedicine, for example. Another issue is human resources. So ito yung na-highlight ngayong pandemic na even if you have computers or sophisticated system, but pag wala kang encoder, the system or the data cannot be uploaded on a timely manner. So we've realized ngayong pandemic na we do not expect the barangay health workers, the physician to actually encode after seeing patients. And another issue under human resources is skill set. You would be surprised that a lot of health workers should be actually capacitated on how to use technology. So again, for us to realize the infrastructure requirements, human resource requirements for e-health or e-government to be successful, we need funding or financing. So yun po yung nakita namin na issue, at least with regards to health. But I think these issues are also cross-cutting, the issue of infrastructure, the issue of human resources.
Okay, so bali lumalabas na nasabi mo, no? These are the discoveries since March. We discovered we needed doctors to see patients, but COVID prevents doctors and patients to see each other. And it was only then we realized we need to develop the telemedicine platform. So kumbaga, no, we were starting from zero. Tapos, obviously, all our past problems and our shortages have come to visit us in terms of connection. And actually, it's interesting yung sinabi mo, yung skill set at saka yung encoders, etc. Kasi mismong DOH ang nagsabi kahapon, they basically said, we are unable to give you accurate data or accurate information because even the laboratories are not all compliant and up to date. I think out of 115 or 150, mga 88 lang ang compliant and up to date. Go ahead.
That's correct, sir. I think before I elaborate this problem, I want you to give a real picture what the system looked like before COVID, right? So ito yung sistema na kinalakihan ko. It has been from time immemorial, not only by this government, but also its predecessor. So this is based on my experience as a health researcher, crunching data over the years. So ang issue naman natin ay yung surveillance data natin dati, are not submitted on a daily manner or even monthly by local government units. We need to understand that the health sector is highly devolved. So even if legally local governments should submit data or laboratories should submit data, hindi nangyayari in reality. Second is that DOH dati, before COVID, wala tayong reliable data on hospital equipment like, a ventilator. We don't know ilan yung functional na ventilator natin. Ilan yung hospital vacancy, ilan yung occupancy rate, because simply, most public and private hospitals do not submit data on a daily basis. If they do it yearly through the hospital statistical report. So, yun yung dating sistema. Ngayong may COVID, may public clamor or demand to have a reliable data on a daily basis. Like every 4 p.m., we need to have data. So, in the early days of the pandemic, the government needed to build everything from scratch. So UH needed to develop an infrastructure in few months. So medyo maraming mga bottlenecks along the way. But in the past, a lot of consultants, a lot of technical assistants were actually poured into this. But I think ngayon na-highlight na may urgency talaga na kailangan natin may responsibilidad ang gobyerno to deliver information to the public. But in reality, we don't have that infrastructure before nung pumasok ang pandemic. So yun yung malaking issue kung ano tayo ngayon. I think we need also to give credit to the government because I think we are now on the right track, right? We just really need to polish the system, like hook every health facilities into the system. And eventually, after the pandemic, we can use the system that we build now to actually use for other diseases, like yung pag-collect ng data on dengue, yung pag-collect ng data on other infectious diseases. So we can now use this. And my last point, sir, is that one thing that we've realized is that reliable and accurate data is not a function of government alone. I mean, they play a big role. But if the public hospital or the private hospital or laboratories will not submit, things will fail. So, everyone needs to do its part. Like all players of the health system needs to actually contribute for us, for the public to have reliable and accurate data.
You said, Professor, Dr. Val, you said a while ago na government is doing much better. What exactly is government doing? Kasi in terms of coordinating the data, in terms of getting all of the hardware, the infrastructure, wala akong nadidinig na na bida, walang champion, walang leader. And alam mo sa Pilipinas, kung walang pasimuno, walang pupuntahan, walang mangyayari. So, what is your basis for saying government has somehow improved on this?
I'm not saying it's perfect, sir, but as I've said kanina, when I laid the ground na this is how we collected information before the pandemic. Na wala tayong like hospitals or laboratories like do not submit daily census, for example, of ganyan. But now there's a public clamor. So DOH tried to build with the help of the private sector, with the help of non-government organizations, try to develop a system to actually interconnect all the health facilities.
Is it really a system or simply a policy of coordination? Kasi alam mo, if I follow the one hospital system, yung tatawagan mo yung number para makakuha ka ng accommodation o para ma-accept ka sa isang hospital dahil may COVID ka, yung one hospital system is actually a coordination. It is not a system that's really in place, supported by technology, by funding. Kumbaga parang anong tawag mo doon? Parang task force ba? Temporary in nature. Go ahead.
That's correct, sir. It's actually it's both a system. You need you need both an innovative technology to do that,
Mhm.
and an innovative process. So I'm not talking about the technology itself, but also the process, right?
Yeah.
So one hospital command is actually an innovative process, right? But at the same
Oo.
time, if you look at the one hospital command, they uses also technology for real-time understanding kung saan yung hospital na may vacancy pa. So to
Oo.
be clear, so it's both a process and it uses an innovation in using process and technology. So I
Okay.
think these are the things that we want to push forward even after pandemic.
Okay, so right now, what is our situation? Kasi according to the study, mabagal yung transition or yung development of e-government or e-health in the Philippines. Now, I guess my first question is, what is the impact of that on the Philippines and Filipinos? Kung mabagal ang transition faced with COVID-19, what is the impact of this slowness, so to speak?
So I think, sir, if we have if data processes are slow, I think there will be an issue on what appropriate policy should the government actually follow, right? So,
Hmm.
for example, the imposition of quarantine is based on the number of cases or based on the number of deaths, for example. So, and kung anong sitwasyon sa hospital. And this requires timely and reliable data. So if you do not have timely and reliable data, you may not be able to, provide or the government will not be properly informed ano yung next na gagawin, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I think there's a huge implication in terms of what policy should be next, right? Ano yung polisiya na kailangan gawin ng gobyerno? So we need reliable and reliable data to do that.
Okay, so aside from data, what else do we really need? Kasi parang is someone in charge of this e-government shift? Kasi parang you hear, oh, agency this, agency that, pero alam mo, hindi biro itong shift to e-government o governance or e-government. You need a real expert and you need someone that other cabinet members will respect. Kasi parang feeling ko, kung nasa bureau level lang yan, talagang gagapang yan because I know, like let's say the LTO. The LTO has been trying very hard to go to online payment. And there was a time, meron doon sa mga probinsyang pumapalag. Kasi ganito, kasi ganon. But in the end, they found out na pumapalag kasi mawawala yung racket ng mga ibang tao. And stuff like this because e-government reduces a lot of corruption and it makes businesses more transparent. Pero who's in charge?
That's a very good question, sir. If you look at the successful countries with mature e-government system, uh,
Hmm.
ang nakikita namin is there needs to be a multi-sectoral collaboration, right? Hindi
Hmm.
lang isang bureau sa DOH, isang bureau sa Department or DepEd.
Hmm.
So if you want to make sure na interconnected lahat ng gobyerno, right, in terms of processes,
Hmm.
there should be an agency na magmaman ng mga ng e-government system.
Hmm.
Currently, I think that the ICT should actually lead this. The civil service commission should actually also be involved. So tama, hindi lang siya bureau level, but it's a high level um, um, endeavor, and that should be actually led by the ICT with the help of other agencies like CSC and other and all national government agencies for that to
Yeah.
happen. So hindi lang siya patsi-patsi, but it actually
Oo.
a system that interconnects all government agency. And ito yung successful na mga e-government na nakita, for example, in Estonia, in Canada, etc. So they have this framework na it should be a multi-sectoral and it should be a collaborative and high-level governance ang kailangan for this to happen.
Okay, going back to the reporting system, the data acquisition, kasi nabanggit mo kanina yung quarantine. Ngayon, eto na ngayon itong si Secretary Lito Galvez, Chief Implementer, who wants to do away with home quarantine. Ang unang reaksyon ng maraming tao na napapanood ko, nadidinig ko, ay ilan ba ang quarantine facilities ng gobyerno kung ipagbabawal na natin yung home quarantine? I mean, I don't want to get into the right or wrong of the quarantine, the banning of the home quarantine. But do we even gather, do we even have access to this data right now? O meron na namang magpapadala ng memo, sige nga, pa-audit nyo nga lahat kung ilan ang quarantine facilities all over the country?
Yes, sir. I think the Department of Health is actually monitoring ilan yung quarantine facility natin. I think that's one of the indicators they actually use. Ang issue lang is that
Do we have enough?
That's an important question, sir, because if we will not allow home quarantine, ang kailangan ma-calculate ng gobyerno ilan yung kailangan natin. The question is, and to me, I still need to do the analysis kung ilan yung kailangan natin. So I think the government, before we make that, if we decide not to do home quarantine, then we need to make sure ilan yung kailangan natin. Kasi, for example, if 10 contacts, right? So may enough ba tayong quarantine facility to actually accommodate all, for example, the contacts. So yun yung mga issue. To answer your question, yeah, monitor ng national government, but the bigger question is, sapat ba if we disallow home quarantine? But I think the policy now is that if I think the Department of Health laid some conditions that, for example, if you have your own room, if you have your own bathroom, you can actually do home quarantine. Pero ang nangyayari kasi hindi naman ganoon in reality, wala naman maraming Pilipino na walang ganong provision, right? And yun yung dapat natin tignan, na dapat hindi siya home quarantine. Kung walang sariling banyo, na nagsisiksikan sa isang bahay, it doesn't make sense for us to do home quarantine.
Yeah. So, and then, well, anyway, Dr. Val Ulep, thank you very much for those insights. And I guess it's more than anything, your study is a reminder of the obvious. Hindi ba, kumbaga, no? Kasi tayong Pilipino, nandiyan na, hindi pa rin natin pinapansin o pinapahalagahan. It's so obvious but we remain blind to it. And studies like yours make it scientific and make it factual. Hindi ito yung political, hindi ito yung he said, she said. It's based on science. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's Dr. Val Ulep, Research Fellow of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS. Ngayon, bago po tayo mag-break, yun naman yun eh. Alam na natin yan from the very beginning, even before COVID-19. We don't really have a health system to speak of if you are speaking in terms of global standards. Kumbaga, meron tayong mga hospital dito, hospital doon, expert dito, expert doon. But in terms of what Dr. Ulep was saying, yung coordination, yung communication, yung infrastructure, yung funding, your personnel, yung training of personnel, hindi lang yung medtech o pasado na yan. Hindi po, dapat may continuing training, etc. Dito sa e-government, our problem is this. Who's in charge? This is a huge requirement. This is a huge national program. It will entail money, it will entail personnel, and it will impact the quality of government services and the life of Filipinos. But again, it cannot be based on need. It has to be based on a goal, on a vision, and on expertise. Anyway, we'll go for a break, and when we return, we will speak to Father Secillano of the CBCP para pag-usapan natin itong tungkol sa mga simenteryo, simbahan at kumpisal here on Agenda. Okay, bago po tayo pumunta kay Father Secillano, sabi nga nila beauty before holiness. let's bring in Shyla Francisco because Shyla has to jump all over the place doing her coverage. So let's find out what Shyla Francisco has to share as far as that magnificent idea of white sand beach on Ross Boulevard. Oh, ba't sumimangot ka, Shyla?
Sir, maraming developments po sa Manila Bay. For
Okay.
one, environmental groups are coming up with different strategies to stop the project. We have the position paper of some 16 organizations to stop the project, and may online petition na rin, which shows the laws that were violated by the project and also the impact on environment and health. We also saw a rally on Monday to protest the project. Now, aside from doon sa mga environmental groups, even the local governments of Manila and the provincial government of Cebu are now doing their part to investigate the issue. We have Cebu provincial government who issued a cease and desist order doon sa further extraction of dolomites in Alcoy, Cebu, where the dolomites came from. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, on the other hand, sought clarification from DNR Secretary Roy Simatu after the DOH pronouncement that there are health hazards with the Dolomite project. Essentially, the argument of some groups is that first, it's unnecessary, it's a waste of money, and it violated at least 5 laws. Cito?
Okay, medyo bigla, isang linggo, 16 na ang nagproprotesta. Ang bilis. In any case, let's start with Isko Moreno. Was he part of this plan o was he yung kumbaga mayor lang po ako, national government kayo, national government project yan, wala ako say. Is Isko Moreno party to this entire project or was he just a kumbaga a willing eyewitness?
As you said, Cito, DNR is in charge of the whole project. National government yung may hawak nito following the executive order made by President Duterte in 2019. Now, Manila is there to cooperate and participate. Last Friday, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno told the public that he supports the whole project, but environmental groups are pointing out that he should also do his part to investigate and do a public consultation kasi nasa part yun ng civil code or the local government code that if there are projects impacting environment, they should parang manghimasok, they should get into it and investigate. Cito?
Okay, so si Isko Moreno, kumbaga sumusuporta lang pero hindi siya kasama dun sa mga nagplano niyan. Ngayon, I keep hearing writ of kalikasan. What is the update on that?
Mhm. When we ask some environmental groups, writ of kalikasan is an option kasi you can file it whenever there are projects that poses harm to the
Mm.
environment or health. And some lawyers argue that these clearly shows some hazards to health and environment. Now, the problem kasi with the writ of kalikasan, according to some environmental groups, is that it takes a long time before the Supreme Court or the Supreme Court could issue the writ of kalikasan. It's sort of an injunction and parang forcing the officials to act or to comply with the environmental law. So
Yeah.
what the options they are looking into is some sort of TRO and other legal options since yun nga, they violated at least 5 laws.
Yeah.
Sito.
Alam mo, Shaila, when this project first caught my attention, a very common question was, yung pagtambak ba ng buhangin, is it just, they just dumped it on the shore or what you call a shoreline, or was it dumped in a box na kumbaga kahit na umulan, umaraw, umalon, hindi maaanod, that the sand or the dolomite won't be washed away? Because I think that's the environmental concern and also the concern for wastage. Kasi some other people who not really much into environment are saying, pag tinambak mo yan, pag tumama yung bagyo o ulan, mauubos ulit yan.
Mm. Sito, when we went to Manila Bay last Monday or Tuesday, we saw yung geotextile under doon sa sand. They
Oh.
said that the geotextiles were put in place to prevent the erosion or prevent the sand from being washed away. And according to the DNR, from from the budget hearing yesterday and the previous statements they had, before they implemented the project, there was a feasibility study on the engineering interventions that they could put so that the sand won't be washed away in just a year or 2 years. So they say that they have this geotube, geotextiles, and they keep assuring that there is an engineering intervention on the project. Sito.
Ayun, okay. So any other new inputs or interesting data that you can share before we release you into the wild? para kang ano, no? Catch and release.
Sito, the latest is that the Makabayan bloc already filed a resolution to investigate the issue, and some senators also expressed intentions to investigate the issue. Now, hindi pa natin na-discuss some of the DNR's argument regarding all these criticisms. As for the environment standards, environmental hazards, we discussed it already, and they said yung dolomite, while the DOH said that it poses health hazards, it only happens according to DNR during the crushing operation. Since sand na yon, they made sure na malalaki yung granules niya for it not to be suspended in the air and maiwasan yung mga sakit. It also daw, with the nutrients of the dolomite, it improves the water quality and keeps stable yung pH content. Ngayon, yun ang sinasabi nila. Meron daw silang proof to show environmentally and na sound environmentally and walang health hazards ito, Sito.
It will improve the pH content. Ano yung Manila Bay? Bathtub, swimming pool na napakaliit? Nako, sus, Ginoo, masisira ulo ko dun sa mga argumento na yan. In any case, Shaila, thank you very much for giving us an update. I think the best input you gave me today is umabot na ng 16 in a matter, parang anti-terror law, no? A number of days determine the relative increase in number of complainants. Okay, thank you very much, Shaila, and you take care of yourself. God bless you. Okay, that's Shaila Francisco. Binibigyan po tayo ng update tungkol dyan sa Manila Bay, no? Well, it clearly shows that this is not going to go away. Number one. Kasi Nung isang linggo po, 2 lang yata ang nagsasalita tungkol dyan sa white sand sa Manila Bay. Nung umabot yung Sabado-Linggo, medyo nagkakausapan na sa social media. And then by Monday, Tuesday, as you heard from Shaila, the media started going to the place. Meron ng mga nagpo-protest. At I remember when I interviewed someone regarding this, mga 2 pa lang yung mga magfa-file ng case. Apparently ngayon, 60 na yung nagpa-file ng case. Now, I want to be fair to Secretary Simatu, to Benny Abante, to Isko Moreno, na it looked like a good idea. Okay? It sounded like a good idea. Pero, once you start doing the study, considering, Benny Abante, sorry. Benny Antiporda. Okay. Once you start considering all the ramifications, both legal, environmental, etc., sabi nga nung isang American pastor na pinapakinggan ko, when there are people who do things and only after the disaster has struck, that they realize maybe they didn't think things over, and a lot of people will ask them one question: what were you thinking? What were you thinking in doing this project? It sounded like a good idea. Wow, white sand beach. Naggawa tayo ng Boracay in Metro Manila, etc. Pero ano yan alam nyo, parang naalala ko tuloy, parang yung ginawa sa Iloilo, yung sa Esplanade ba? Gumawa sila nung walkway, ano nila doon, yung na plataforma by the river, etc. Napakaganda. Gumawa sila ng lakaran ng tao, pasyalan ng tao. Pero yung pakikialaman mo na, yung environment, yung beach, the minute you start messing around with Mother Nature, her children, the environmental warriors, will most certainly go after you. So in any case, I think what makes this situation very distasteful, number one, is timing. The president has said time and again, wala na tayong pera. Hindi na kami makakapagbigay ng SAP, etc., etc., bankrupt na ako, etc., etc. And then suddenly you're spending, ewan ko, ang balita ko, hindi lang hundreds of millions sa abutin itong pagtatambak ng buhangin dyan. So it leaves a very bad taste in the mouth. Na just on pure timing alone, and contrast to a national disaster, etc., medyo off talaga itong ginawang paggawa. I mean, creative, yes, creative. Attractive, well, you attracted a lot of attention. And alam mo, medyo, sige, pagbigyan, pero hindi ho talaga lulusot. So, ang tanong ngayon, if the court says stop that madness, what do we do with the sand? What do we do with the project? At saka, hindi nyo na talaga matutuloy. Pinastop na ni Gwen Garcia yung pagpapadala ng dolomite dito sa May Ross Boulevard. So, even if the court does not stop it at the moment, Gwen Garcia actually stopped it. And by the way, we would like to express our condolence to Governor Gwen Garcia. Nabalitaan ko po yung 2 kapatid niya magkasunod na namatay sa COVID-19. Nako po, talagang napakalungkot niyan at napakahirap niyan. Nakikiramay po kami kay Governor Gwen, and we hope that you will find strength in the Lord during these very difficult and trying times. And we just hope that you will continue to be safe and healthy. Okay, we'll go for a break. And when we come back, pag-usapan naman natin from Manila Bay White Sand to Cementerio yung mga whitewashed sepulchers. Okay, we'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, you're back watching Agenda, and alam nyo po, recently I saw a photo of Catholic devotees who were standing. Kumbaga ang dami nila, pero social distance naman. Doon yata yun sa harap ng Quiapo Church, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure about which church, but I think it was the Quiapo Church. And the devotees were all standing outside, parang nagnunubina or something or may misa pero walang makapasok sa simbahan, puro sila nandun sa labas, no? And it just brings home the fact that there are many Filipinos who still need to physically go to a church. And that's going to be one of our topics today in our discussion with Father Jerome Secillano, Public Affairs Committee Secretary General of the CBCP. Father Jerome, welcome back. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Cito. And good morning to all the televiewers and your followers.
Okay, kamusta na ba tayo? What is the CBCP's reaction na pinapayagan na 10% of your parishioners to be able to go inside the church, 10% of the capacity. Is this a lot of people or depende na lang sa church talaga?
Well, it depends on the size of the church. When we speak of 10% of the church's capacity, if it is a bigger church, of course, medyo marami-rami yung 10% yan. For example, kaya mag-accommodate siya ng 1,000, the 10% of that will be 100. So, medyo okay na rin yun kahit paano kumpara naman sa 10 lang na ina-allow nila before. Well, it's actually a benefit not for the Catholic Church but for the people.
Yeah.
Kasi sa panahon ng pandemya, ang mga tao ay essential para sa kanila yung pagdarasal. Yung binabanggit mo kanina na napakarami na naghihintay sa labas kasi hindi naman sila pwedeng i-accommodate sa loob ng simbahan dahil sumusunod kami sa patakaran IATF. Pero kahit na ganun pa man, ang mga tao ay pumupunta pa rin sa simbahan, yung nga lang, nasa labas sila but still maintaining social and physical distancing.
Okay. Depending on our success or our failure, malalaman natin kung madadagdagan yung makakapagsimba. Pero it puts the pressure on the CBCP, on all the church leaders, na siguraduhin hindi magkaroon ng mga infection. Ano ang gagawin ng CBCP at saka ng mga parish priests to make sure na tama ang bilang, alam niyo yung capacity? Kasi binagbibilang ba talaga tayo ng church capacity or idea lang yun?
Okay. Yung CBCP, in fairness, even before, as early as March, nagpalabas na yung guidelines para pagbawalan yung ilang mga practices sa loob ng simbahan. So, consistent pa rin naman yung mga pagbabawal dito, yung mga paghahawak-hawak ng kamay, yung mga pagmamano, pagpupunas sa mga sacred images, yung paggamit ng holy water. So, ito muna ay tinanggal. Kasi sabi ng mga eksperto, baka ito ay maging sanhi pa ng paglaganap ng virus. Pero ang talagang onus of determination or determining the number of churchgoers, nasa kura paroko yan. So, kanya-kanya na yan na simbahan. Ang mga kura paroko sa aking pagkakaalam, very strict naman sila sa kanilang implementation ng protocols. So, kaya yung sinasabing may nagbibilang ba, yung kanilang mga servers, sila mismo ang nagdedetermine, binibilang nila kung tama ba yung bilang na pumapasok sa loob ng simbahan. Kaya, nakikita nyo ngayon dito sa images, obviously na hindi na sila napapasok dahil sumobra na sila sa bilang ng dapat na nasa loob ng simbahan.
Okay, so kahit na 10% lang yung sa loob, pwede pa rin naman sa labas, naglalagay na lang kayo ng loudspeaker.
May loudspeaker, then mahalaga pa rin yung physical distancing kahit nasa labas.
Okay, magkakaroon ba ng yung lockdown, ng mga for contact tracing? Kasi ako ngayon pag nakikibalita ako, marami akong kaibigan na iirita nang lumabas. Sabi, pupunta ka lang ng hardware meron pang lista-lista ng contact tracing, ganito, may face shield, may face mask. Diyan ba sa mga misa sa simbahan, papasuotin pa rin ba ng face shield yung mga magsisimba at saka palilista yung kanilang contact details?
Yung pagsusuot po ng face mask at saka face shield, palagay ko, ito po ay minimum health protocol na pinatutupad ng IATF. Hindi kami pwede na lumabag po doon, kaya ginagawa po namin yun.
Okay.
Yung pagpapalista po ng mga magsisimba, meron po mga simbahan na gumagawa nito, pero
Mhm.
hindi po lahat. Kasi tinitingnan ko nga ho yung wish dito, yung maglilista ka, eh, kung paano mo ite-trace yung mga yan sa dinami-dami ng misa. Pero sige na lang, mag-comply na lang para at least wala tayong masabi, wala silang masabi. Pero
Mhm.
yun nga, ay yung logic at saka yung wisdom, paano mo matitrace yan? Well, kami po sa simbahan, sa pagpayag po ng IATF na kami ay makapagdaos ng misa na meron pong mga tao, 10 man yan o kaya 10% of the church's capacity, wala pa naman po kami, sa akin pong pagkakaalam, na na-infect sa loob ng simbahan habang sila nagsisimba. So far
Ah.
po, yan po ang aming balita. So, ibig sabihin nito, effective yung pinatutupad doon namin protocols sa loob ng simbahan.
Okay, mukhang maraming LGU ngayon ang nag-advance planning. Katulad dyan sa Manila, nag-advance planning na si Isko Moreno, si Mayor Moreno, at sinabi niya na, yung sementeryo sarado sa Undas. Anong reaction ninyo kung sakasakaling ipasara yung mga ibang sementeryo?
Well, ito naman po ay very practical na estratehiya kasi kapag November 1, November 2, sangkatutak po talaga yung tao na pumupunta dyan. At alam natin, kapag napakalaki ho ng bilang ng tao, ando doon yung risk din ng transmission itong virus. So palagi ko yung ganung estratehiya, very practical at makakatulong para mapigilan po natin yung paglalaganap ng virus. Ang advice lang po namin, kung magpapatupad man ng LGU ng ganyang polisiya, mag-alay na lang po ng misa sa mga simbahan. Yun po ang napakahalaga. Ipagdasal po yung mga namayapa, tapos punta sila sa opisina ng kanilang parokya, then offer masses for the departed. Sila din mismo mag-alay ng dasal sa kanilang bahay, magtiriko ng kanila kahit hindi man sa sementeryo, sa araw mismo ng mga patay, kahit sa loob lang ng bahay, pwede na po yun. Dahil hindi naman po natin pwedeng labagin kung ano nang ginawang polisiya ng pamahalaan.
Okay, that's good to know, Father Jerome. Matanong ko lang, pasensya ka na, kahit na itong edad ko to, medyo apektado na ako ng kultura natin eh. Ano ba ang sitwasyon o usap-usapan tungkol dun sa, ano ba yun, yung Misa de Gallo ba yun, ang tawag nila? Yung Misa pag Pasko, palagay mo matutuloy pa ba yun?
Well, so far naman po, minomonitor din natin yung kalagayan. Ang makapagbibigay po sa atin dito talaga ng advice, yung mga eksperto, epidemiologists, yung mga health experts, sila naman po ang kinukonsulta din natin at pinakikinggan. Ulit-ulitin ko po yan, kami naman po sa simbahan ay nagko-comply. Hindi po namin pwedeng ipagpilitan yung aming po mga gawain, lalong-lalo na kung ito naman ay magpo-pose ng risk sa napakaraming
Oo.
tao.
Kasi ang problema natin, 'di ba, may curfew. So, apektado yung midnight mass o yung ating early morning mass for before Christmas.
Definitely po, maapektuhan yan. Pero sabi ko nag-evolve naman po itong situation natin. Katulad nga po ng pag-change ng phase ng quarantine. Dati nasa MGCQ tayo, tapos GCQ na ngayon, ECQ nung unang-una. So, umaasa po tayo na sa pag-usad din naman ng araw, paglipas ng araw, ay mag-i-improve din naman yung situation. Kaya ang panawagan nga po natin dito ay lagi po tayo magdasalan. Huwag po nating nakalimutan yun. Kasi sa panahon ngayon, ang talagang pwede natin panghawakan dito ay yung ating pananalig, ay yung ating pagtitiwala sa Diyos. And even the President, in one of his conferences, already said that the antivirus will come in God's time.
Okay. Now, yung last question ko na lang siguro, Father Jerome, yung tungkol naman sa confessions ba? Actually, two questions. One is about confession. May mga nagsusulong or there are people who are saying na, what about confessions? Some people just feel better after confession. And also, how has this pandemic affected the giving spirit of Catholics? No? So, let's start with the confession issue.
Well, of course, people are fearful of going out of their houses and then also of being face-to-face with others. So, ando dun lagi yung ganung thought, na delikado tayo. Kaya kahit paano yung confession na apektuhan din. But as of now, mahalaga din kasi na makausap mo yung pare, makapag-confess ka, and then to have a clean conscience, especially at this time that we are in a crisis. Kaya yun ang panawagan namin, kung meron kayong pagkakataon, go to a priest, do confession, and then all the health protocols naman ay patutupad. Merong distancing, and then nag-wear ng face mask, and of course, sa isang safe pa rin na lugar kung saan wala naman makakarinig. So yun po pinatutupad namin dito.
Okay, paano naman yung estado ngayon ng contributions, yung tithing ba? Yung pagbibigay ng tithe sa mga simbahan. Anong naapektuhan ba o mas nagiging generous ang mga Pilipino ngayon?
Sa mga Catholic churches, hindi lahat nagpa-practice ng tithing. Ito kasi yung regular contribution nila, 10% of their income.
Aha.
Ang talagang pinapractice ng mga simbahan ay yung mass collections and then of course donations. Mass collections, when you go to church, nagsimba ka, naghuhulog ka ng iyong contribution. Yung donations naman, kahit hindi ka nagsimba, punta ka lang ng opisina, kausapin mo yung staff, kausapin mo yung kura paroko, magbibigay ka ng iyong tulong. So, naapektuhan kahit papaano, lalong-lalo na yung mass collections. Number one, kokonti kasi yung mga nagsisimba. Number two, pinagbawalan din naman nilang magkaroon ng physical presence yung mga tao sa simbahan. Pero ang napansin naman namin dito, may mga well-meaning parishioners who are really concerned about the status of the church, and they are the ones going out of their way to make their donations. Pupunta sila sa opisina, nagbibigay sila ng pera. Yung iba naman nagdo-donate through bank.
Aha.
So doon na mismo nila hinuhulog sa bank account ng parish.
Okay, just to clarify yung mga misconceptions about churches and about finances. Paano ba sa Catholic Church yung system? Kunyari, merong nagtayo dito kami sa Barrio Capitolio. Meron kaming isang Catholic Church dito inside the village. Yun bang kura parokyo ba tawag mo doon, yung parish priest doon? Siya ba ay sinusuportahan ng CBCP o ng National Organization of the Catholic Church, or you're on your own, you're all independent churches na you are dependent on your parishioners for paying your electricity, salaries, etc.?
Ang role po ng CBCP para lang po sa mga obispo at saka mga
Okay.
policy sa simbahan. Kapag pinag-usapan na po natin mga parokya, ang obligasyon po niyan unang-una ay nasa kura paroko, pero siya ay under ng diocese o di kaya ng diocesan bishop. So when you speak about Barrio Capitolio, for example, it's under the Diocese of Pasig and your bishop is Bishop Milo Vergara. So sila po ang talagang directly merong kinalaman sa pagpapatakbo ng parokya po ninyo. Of course, nag-a-appoint ang inyong obispo ng mamamalakad. Ang tawag natin nga dito, yung parish priest po kaya po na paroko. Ngayon ay tumutulong ba ang diocese? Yun na lang ang tanong. Hindi na CBCP po dito, diocese talaga.
Pasensya ka na, nagtatanong ako kasi mabuti na yung tanga nagtatanong para maging marunong kaysa yung nagmamarunong, nagmumukhang tanga.
Opo. So yung diocese po ay depende kung halimbawa talagang hard up yung parokya, yung diocese ay susuporta doon sa parish. Pero sa Barrio Capitolio, mukhang hindi po. Baka mangyayari pa ho niyan, baka yung Barrio Capitolio, siya pa ang maaaring nag-aambag para makatulong sa diocese.
Sa diocese. Kasi may mga lugar na medyo maayos naman ang kalagayan, nable-bless yung mga residente, at sila naman yung maluwag na nagbibigay sa mga simbahan.
Tama po.
Okay. Well, Father Jerome, thank you very much. Kasi siyempre, kahit papano, nag-aalala rin ng mga tao. Kasi to be honest, and to be factual about it, I've heard a lot of people say, paano na yung mga churches? Paano na yung mga missionaries? Because everyone is talking about first responders, talking about healthcare people, but some of the more spiritual religious people I know have said, alam mo, Cito, you should discuss those priests and those missionaries because during this time, lalong mahihirapan sila. Mahirap na nga being a priest and a missionary to survive comfortably, lalo pa ngayong may pandemic.
Well, tama po, napakaganda po nung ginawa ninyong pagkakataon na 'to, dahil at least ipapalabas po natin, ipaparating natin sa tao kung ano talagang concerns ng simbahan. Well, it's really hard for the church right now. Yung utilities pa lang po, babayaran ho ito, medyo mahirap na. Tapos siyempre yung iba pa pong mga gawain, katulad na kami din naman ay nag-outreach, tumutulong din naman kami sa mga parokyano namin, lalong-lalo na yung talagang walang-wala. So, it definitely requires resources also. But we are surviving through the help of generous people. And we thank them for that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Father Jerome, for being generous with your time and knowledge. And bagamat ikaw yung pare, I think I can also bless you with prayer
Thank you.
that may the Lord bless all of you in the church and provide for your needs and keep all of you safe from harm and lalo na COVID-19. Thank you very much, Father Jerome.
Thank you also, Cito, for that beautiful prayer. Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
yan po si Father Jerome Secillano ng Public Affairs Committee Secretary ng CBCP. Mabuti po yung napag-usapan natin yun, because a lot of people are so concerned about, the front end of COVID and the economy. We are all worried about ourselves first, of course, ourselves and our families. We're worried about providing for our loved ones and some sense of security. And then we worry about our employees. And then as a country, as a nation, we have all been praying and worried about frontliners and appreciating them. Pero alam nyo po, during normal times, marami sa inyo, ang takbuhan ninyo, yung parish priest ninyo, o kaya yung mga madre, o kaya yung mga pastor, mga church elders, or people in the service, in the church. And but now, mukhang nagkakalimutan. Wag po sana, no? Let's not forget. And my heart goes really to the missionaries, whether they're campus missionaries, whether they're actual missionaries, mga kaibigan ko na nandoon sa may mga places na I myself don't wanna be, okay? Nararamdaman ko yung kanilang hirap, no? Kasi medyo numinipis po yung kanilang ministry support. And I think I would just like to encourage all of you because I can give you testimony. Ako po ay nagkabahay dahil ang inuna ko ay magbigay sa pagpapatayo ng bahay ng Panginoon. Ako po ay may trabaho today. I have work because I also share the blessings of this work to people in the ministry. So I just want to encourage that. And meron lang po pala akong gustong i-share ngayong umaga, no? Kasi if you remember when I interviewed Doc Tony Leachon a few days ago, I mentioned to him that there are many people who are consulting, mostly by phone, consulting their doctors regarding ailments that they notice, they feel, they're worried about. Yung mga sumasakit na parte ng katawan nila, etc. And siguro napapansin ninyo ako ngayon, katulad ako ngayon, lagi ako parang may sipon, Wala po tayong COVID. By God's grace, protected tayo. Sana naman po, no? But people go to the doctors and then they find out na sasabihin sa kanila ng doktor, there's nothing wrong with you. It is simply a change of lifestyle. Wala ka na kasing maid, wala ka ng houseboy, o kaya you are more active at home, you are doing more work at home, or doing things yourself, mas DIY ka na ngayon, meron kang mga bahagi, parte ng katawan mo na dati hindi mo ginagamit, ngayon nagagamit mo. Now, I've said that before, that's not new, okay? But here's the new thing. This morning, I was listening to a preaching of Pastor Robert Morris, isang good preacher in the States. And he was saying, don't believe the lie. And napaka-practical po yung shinare niya. Sinabi niya, I grew up believing, sabi ni Pastor Robert Morris, he grew up believing na accident prone siya. Ilan sa inyo lumaking ganyan? accident prone. Ilan sa inyo lumaki katulad ko na sinabing wala, bobo sa math si Beltran, and you know, to my mistake, or to my error, I even keep making a joke of it by saying ako, nakatapos ako ng Math 77 kasi Math 11 kinuha ko ng 7 beses. But this morning, I realized something in that preaching of Robert Morris. He was saying, you know, you start to believe things na mahina ka sa math, mahirap lang kayo, o kaya ay accident prone ka or sakitin ka. And recently, I caught myself doing that. Pag may mga nakakausap ako, sinasabi ko, wala laging may tama na ako sa likod kasi ganito, ganon, by age, may disgrasya ako, etc. And I realized that I was speaking life to the pain that I'm experiencing. Sa totoo lang, masakit lang yung kasukasuhan ko kasi yun nga, ako'y naglalaba. Hindi po ako gumagamit ng washing machine. Ako'y naglalaba, ako ay nagwawalis, kanya nalalaman ko ang daming construction dust dahil sa tinamaan ng mga lintik na itong mga condominium na ginagawa din sa paligid namin. Ako yung nagpupunas ng mga yan, etc. And many more things that I'm doing. My pain is not a disease. My pain is not some physical deformity. It is just from working. But do not give life to pain and call it aging or disease or infirmity, etc. Katulad din po yung bulsa ninyo. Speak life to your pocket. Do not speak curses to your pocket. Sorry po, hindi po ako nagpipreach. Kaya lang, talagang napakalaki ng impact sa akin na-realize ko, ang dami sa atin nagiging negatron kasi puro na lang negative ang hinahanap natin at sinasabi natin. So, medyo sana po mapag-aralan natin yung ating pamumuhay, ating pananalita, the way we see things, and don't believe the lie of the devil, okay? More than anything. So, in any case, medyo papahinga na muna po tayo kasi talagang yung aking problema, allergy sa alikabok, no? In any case, it's going to be a shorter day today, but we will continue to have more guests in the coming days, more topics, and ang prayer ko na lang po para sa inyong lahat, may you have a great day ahead of you, a productive day, a fruitful day, and may you speak life into your health, your family, your finances, and your pocket. Take care of yourself. God bless all of you. I'm Cito Beltran, and that's today's agenda.